Hello, everybody. My name is Jerry Sung, and I will be presenting the struggling for identity, how external pressures forms and break individuals. This will be my grade 12 English culminating presentation. All right, let me give a brief introduction to the theme. We will be talking about the struggle to keep identity versus external expectations. We will analyze it through the lens of feminism and psychoanalysis. Just a brief introduction to both literacy devices, feminist criticism. By definition, it examines how literature portrays gender roles and challenges or supports patriarchy. Its relevance to highlights women's voices. It exposes gender bias and promotes equality in literature. Psychoanalytic criticism, by definition, it uses psychology to explore characters' unconscious motives and desires. It is relevant to reviews hidden meanings and emotional depth in text. This yeah, this thematic message explored in this analysis is the struggle to keep identity when facing external expectations, review how individuals are formed and broken by the world around him. This idea is examined by three examined through both feminist and psychoanalytic lens by comparing three texts. At first, The Wars by Findley and The Matter of Balance by Valgerson, and the poem Souls by Kamal Brathwaite, which is a literary work not on the course reading list. In the poem Souls, as you can see, the poem itself is written here. Brathwaite explores how identity is caught between resistance and conformity. The speaker longs to return his roots between resistance and conformity. The speaker it belongs to return his roots, showing his reclaiming identity is both emotional and political. The poem critiques how colonialism and patriarchy creates authentic identity. This is literacy techniques that the author compares the metaphors, the oceans and rivers. And conclusion, Braithwaite's poem styles explores the tension between personal identity and the forces of colonialism and patriarchal structure. This contrast between the ocean and the river serves as a metaphor for internal conflict. Braithwaite writes, who are born of the ocean that can never seek solace in the rivers. Their flowing runs on like our longings. Here, the ocean symbolizes intuitive, ancestral identity, while the river represents colonial linear conformity. Through the feminist lens, the river's structured movement reflects rigid gender norms that suppress women's authentic voices. The speaker feels alienated from natural, instinctual self due to these social expectations. Later in the poem, the imagery becomes restorative. Bright waves splash up from the rocks to refresh us, and small urchins combining the beaches look up. They remember us just as we left them. These images symbolize a return to one's original identity, form a psychoanalytic lens. This return represents a reconnection with the unconscious itself, buried under societal repression. Braithwaite portrays that this act of remembering as healing, not just nostalgic but revolutionary. The poem reframes belongings as resistance, showing that reclaiming identity is both emotional and political art. And here is the second text, A Matter of Balance by W.D. Wagnerson. Key terms it states the isolation, repression, and fear, and also masculinity and violence, external performance versus internal truths. He connects the masculinity with violence, feeling the need to appear tough rather than vulnerable. Here are some symbolism this lays out. And in Matter of Balance, symbolism reveals how patriarchal expectations distort Harold's sense of masculinity. He thought he wished that he had brought a hunting knife. Shows how he equates masculinity with violence. The stick he picks up is not merely for defense, it's a symbol for societal pressure to perform masculinity. From a feminist perspective, this demonstrates that patriarchal systems harm not only women but also men by pressuring them to suppress vulnerability and rely on aggression. Harold's inner conflict reflects a universal struggle for identity under gender expectations. Valgerson's distinction shows Harold's inner turmoil. When he panics, the narration reads, his panic fluttered like dry leaves in a rising wind. The word fluttered suggests fragility, something Harold is taught to repress. Through a psychoanalytic lens, his fear is not about the present situation, but unresolved trauma stored in his unconscious. This repression of emotion causes psychological instability and distance from his authentic self. This moment reminds us that many people carry invisible emotional burdens, and suppressing them only delays their impact. And the last one, we will be talking about the wars by Timothy Findley. The wars explores how trauma, masculinity, and control shapes its identity. War as a destructive force on identity. There is an impressive scene, but we will talk about it in the conclusion part, like overall, like an essay analysis. Finally uses juxtaposition to highlight Robert's conflict between emotional sensitivity and violent masculinity required by war. Early in the novel, Roberts shows the deep compassion for animals, but later, in the brutal moment, he is forced to shoot a wounded horse. He began to squeeze the trigger, and he squeezed it again and again and again, so many times when Sergeant Major pulled him away, the gun went right on clicking in his hands. This moment reveals how war, and by extension, patriarchy forces men to suppress empathy. Through a feminist lens, Roberts' breakdown exposed how society's definition of masculinity erases emotional identity. Finally, also explores how unprocessed trauma shapes identity. After Rowan's death, Roberts become emotionally numb. In one scene, he sees himself a scarecrow This metaphor suggests emotional emptiness and foreshadows his mental collapse. Through the psychoanalytic lens, this shows how repressed guilt and grief become destructive when unacknowledged. Robert's silence is not strength, it's a symptom of that deep internal suffering. The novel portrays identity not as fixed, but as something fragile and easily fractured by external pressures. And in conclusion, assess all three tests. Identity is portrayed as something constantly under threat, something that must be protected and at times reclaimed. In South, Breathwaite speakers reconnects with a lost identity through an ancestral memory. In a matter of balance, the horrors struggle with masculinity shows how societal expectations suppress emotional truths. In the wars, the Robert's internal breakdown reveals how trauma reshapes identity from the inside out. Each text shows when external systems, patriarchy, war, colonialism impose impactations, individuals must either conform or resist. The damage caused by silence, repression, and expectation is universal. Yet the art of reclaiming one's identity, whether through memory, rebellion, or collapse, becomes a form of radical self-expression. Ultimately, these works teach us that identity isn't just chosen; it's defended. This analysis aligns with scholarly perspective on identity formation in literature, as noted in the International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts. Literature often explores the tension between individuals' desires and societal expectations. It highlights how characters grapple with conforming to societal norms, cultural traditions, or prescribed roles, which can stifle their authentic self-expression. Thank you for listening. And here will be the works cited page. Oh, sorry. Yeah, the works cited page.